morning, everybody. Good morning, my wanderers and friends. How are you today? Are you surviving the heat? In my area, I hope the last day of the heat. It's kind of getting me, so I act a little groggy. It's the heat really getting me down. I thought I'd do a video today, and what prompted me to do this is a message I received from someone asking me a question. And I thought, I'm going to answer this online, because if one person is asking this question, there may be many of you that are asking the same. The question that was given to me, and let me put my glasses on so that I can actually read it to you. The question that I was asked was, how can you prepare for what this crazy world has to offer? How can you prepare for what this crazy world has to offer? Well, I thought about that and I was like, okay, now, are they asking me that as a personal question? How do I prepare? Or a general question for everyone? I don't believe that, honestly, I can answer fully the question if it's directed at everyone. I mean, everyone has different living situations. Some are in apartments, some are in the city, some are in the country. And so certain things that I might say I do are not something that's possible for someone else to do, and vice versa. So I will address this to myself, the question being asked to myself. First of all, I don't think that I can be prepared for every single thing that might happen. To me, I think that's impossible. I mean, you could walk down the street and a car comes along and hits you. A horrible thought, but how could you prepare for something like that? But in general, if it's because of what this person is seeing or hearing or experiencing, because as she puts it, the crazy world that's going on, I should say, around us. Here's what I would say with regard to myself. One of the things, I'm not going to put them in any particular order. You can all decide for yourselves which things you might want to do in preference of order. One thing is, and I've approached some of these things or discussed some of these things in some other videos, but it's been quite a while and maybe somebody didn't happen to see them. One thing I feel strong about is to be be aware of your surroundings. In other words, always keep looking around you, kind of like having your head on a swivel. Be aware of what's going on in the rest of the world. Not that there's anything you can do about what's going on in the rest of the world, but quite often some of the things that are happening in other world countries, eventually, it's kind of a proven thing that eventually they seem to seep over into the United States. So I think with regard to that, you need to be aware, follow that, and then you need to learn how to define between, I'm gonna flat out say it, some of the lies that we're being told, and read between the lines and the lines. This is something that we all need to learn to do. A difficult thing to do at times, I know. Another thing for myself that I would make sure of is that my home is secure. That I have sufficient locks on doors, windows. I don't forget that, let's say if you're in a house, the hatchway. And I think I discussed that at great length in one of my other videos, but that is something that can help you feel more secure in your own living arrangement. What would you do if there was an HFTF I hope you all know what that is. I have to be careful sometimes how I word things because of YouTube. But if there was an SHTF situation, such as maybe lockdowns, storms, floods, tornadoes, hurricanes, all those things could affect people, and it's going to depend on the areas you live in as well. That's why I said I can't address this to everyone, except that you could draw from some of the things possibly that I'm saying. One thing I would do myself would be to make sure I kept my car gassed up. In other words, I think it's best that you prepare for that the possibility of those things could happen. And you should have a plan of what you're going to do. Somewhere to go. In other words, maybe there's a huge amount of flooding around your home. What roads could you use to get out of that? And would you have enough gas in your car to take you there? There could be other things such as how are you going to keep warm if the electricity goes out? We all remember what happened to those people in Texas, which was just horrible, terrible. And we sure don't want that to happen to us. So you kind of take that as a lesson. There's an example of maybe not looking around the world, over into the other world countries, but in our own country. Those people were completely unprepared for that in many areas of their life. As far as keeping warm goes, again, it's going to depend on where you live, what you can do. I mean, some people have generators. I've heard some people say that if you are stuck in a home with no heat, that is kind of, I think maybe it's going to sound silly, but these people were very strong about their feelings about this, that a way to keep warmer or warm in your home would be to, if you had a tent, if you set up a tent in your, let's say your living room or wherever you have the biggest space, that by being inside the tent with it closed up, several people, that the body warmth would help to a certain extent is what I feel. I mean, if it's below 32 degrees, it's cold, but again, do you have a sleeping bag? Things like that. Then with all that's been going on, and especially over this past weekend with all the shootings, I mean, all across the country, how are you going to prepare for that? I guess for me, I don't go out at night, and I don't live in an area that is running rampant, shall I say, with crime or anything like that, but just as precaution, I just really don't go out after dark. I don't. If you're aware of some goings on in your area or around your area, again, what I had said about making sure your home, your apartment, whatever, is locked up tight. Another thing could be to keep your curtains drawn so that you don't call attention to yourself. Keep your lights very minimal so that they don't think anybody's home. Now that could go two ways. If nobody's home, they might think they could break into your home, but when it comes to shootings and things like that, if they can't see you, they can't shoot you. Another thing I would do is to have enough food stocked up for long term, and whatever long term you think might be for you. A lot of your avid preppers have a year, 2 years, 3 years ahead. People in general, I think the most don't have room for that kind of storage, especially if you're in an apartment or something like that. But I mean, you certainly probably can find room for some storage of food for, I don't know, maybe a month to 3 months. I think 3 months would be a good goal. I mean, we never know when there's going to be another lockdown, whether there's going to be a snowstorm that you can't even get out to get anything into the home. A lot of the food probably needs to be something that you could store on the shelf, because if you lose your power, it's not going to help you with the things that are in your refrigerator or freezer. But if you have some things that you can eat, so actually right out of the can, and there are a lot of things like that if you really look. No, it might not be our fondest wish to eat something like that out of the can, but when you're hungry, you do what you have to do. Another thing would be a way to defend yourself. In other words, if somebody's breaking down your door, I mean, do you have a way to get out a back door or something of that, anything of that type that would defend yourself from harm? Have enough water on hand. Now, I'm not sure what the exact calculation is, but I think it's something like 3 gallons, it's a lot, 3 gallons of water per person per day. And that, I think, would include your animals. And of course, with my 2 little rascals, they don't drink a lot of water. But if you have large dogs, they consume quite a bit. You'll find, you probably never thought about it, but if you measured it for a day and saw how much they either drank or spilled on the floor or whatever, you'd be surprised at yourself. But you need some water, because without water you won't exist. I just feel that in planning for certain things of this nature, that it does give me a little bit of a sense of comfort, less worrying. In other words, if tomorrow I couldn't leave my residence, I know I don't have to go to the grocery store to get milk or bread or anything. I would have something to draw on here until the time came that I was able to do that. This is just a brief list, and I could go on and on and on, and I think that if you do a little more research, you'll find some things that fit you personally, or some of these things may fit you, or maybe you can change them just a little to fit your circumstance. But I think being prepared is not a bad thing. In other words, if you have a month, let's say a month of food storage ahead of you, okay, so if nothing ever happens, so that month you have food that you don't have to put money out on. And maybe you've actually, the way things are going, bought that food at a lesser price than what you're going to pay a month from now, 2 months from now, 5 months from now. So I don't, and I know a lot of people think of it as hoarding, but it's really not hoarding when you go in, you're not going in and wiping out the shelf of everything. You just, okay, say you eat, I'm trying to think of something, tuna fish, okay? So you go in and you buy 2 or 3 cans of tuna instead of 1 for that week. That's leaving enough food for other people to do the same. It's when everybody panics and runs to the store and wipes out a shelf. To me, anyways, that's what I call hoarding food. So I guess that's the basics, and I hope I've answered that person's questions. I hope that that helps them, and I hope that if it does help them, that they feel better, because asking that's all it was a 1-sentence question. Makes me feel badly, really, for that person, because I think they're worried and they don't know where to, what to do, where to go, how to start. And if anybody here has some other ideas, please put them in the comments. You'll be sharing them with other people that really could use some help. And it would be a way of you to help others in your area, and people in general. Okay, I guess that's for today. That's it for today's video. Please stay safe and well, and be ready for the 9th. There's one for you to research if you don't know what they're talking about coming up on the 9th, which is only a couple of days from now. So anyways, if you've enjoyed the video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe. Until next time, have a good rest of the week. Bye-bye.